Viktor Gyokeres has been scoring for fun the past couple of years. He's one of the most informed strikers in Europe, but he seems to have come out of nowhere to banging goals at an alarming rate, including a hat-trick against Man City in the Champions League. But the bloke's 26, hardly a young one in football terms, so where's he been hiding all this time? Stick around to find out. Firstly, of course he hasn't been hiding. Last season only Harry Kane and, bizarrely, Newcastle legend Luke de Jong had more goal involvements in Europe's top 7 leagues. That seems to be the opposite of hiding. But Gyokeres has really come to people's attention within the last couple of years for his ridiculous goal scoring numbers. But there's a bit more to him than that, so let's take it back now y'all, back to 2010 when young Viktor was just 12 years old. At this point he was playing for his local club IFK Prudentellis, where he was spotted by scouts from Brighton, who were in the Swedish top flight, although not for much longer. At the time he wasn't open to a move yet.
Nope.
He wanted to finish his studies like a good lad. It was only when he finished high school that he felt ready to join Brighton. Other teams tried to steal him, but he wanted to stay close to his roots. But then, at Brighton, young Viktor was ready to take the world by storm. Soon. At first, he didn't stand out at all. Their outstanding player was Joseph Colley, who they sold to Chelsea, who went on to make a total of 0 appearances and now plays for Wisla Krakow. And there was also other better players who moved on before him, so things weren't looking very good for Viktor. But what did his manager say about him? This guy, surely he had faith. He was not one of the best players on the team. Oh. But what stood out above the others with Viktor was his desire to improve, which seems a bit cliché with footballers. I mean, surely every pro player has a desire to improve, that's why they're pros. But Savage said he had the best work ethic and his preparation for training was really professional even at a young age. And that work ethic was inherited from his father Stefan, who was a player himself before he then became assistant coach at Viktor's first club, Prudentellis. Gyokeres Sr. took care of Viktor's development and even hired individual coaches to work on improving Viktor's game. At one point, Viktor himself even stopped being a cheapskate and paid himself for an extra coach to work on his technique and one to work on his strength and physical ability. This was supposed to be a beast in the making, but life doesn't always turn out that way. You see, his rise to the top was not particularly straightforward. There was even a point in his career where his coaches doubted he'd even make it. It took him a while to adjust at Brighton, coming from a semi-pro background to one of the best academies in Sweden, so it took him a while to slot into the team. And when he did rather well, playing 2 seasons under Savage and scoring 28 goals in 27 games. Rather impressive. And then a positive turning point in his career when the club was relegated to the 3rd tier. Hang on, relegation was a positive point? Yeah, kind of. After relegation, the club underwent major changes. A new coach arrived, a guy by the name of Olaf Malberg. Old folks like me will remember him for various spells around Europe. And a lot of their first team squad moved on. So the club turned to youth in an attempt to solve their predicament. As a result, Gyokeres was promoted to the first team alongside several of his teammates in the under-19 team. In his debut season he scored 7 goals in 19 league games. To the math, that's nearly a goal a game, to help them get promoted back to the 2nd tier. At which point he really did a Micah Richards and burst onto the scene, with 21 goal contributions in 29 games to help his team to back-to-back promotions. Savage said it best when he said, being relegated absolutely helped him get more first team opportunities. The gap between the under-19 football and the 2nd tier was not huge, so it was easy for him. It helped him that they're in the 3rd tier and they had to play him. Not the most glowing endorsement, but stuff like that doesn't go unnoticed, as Jay from the In-Betweeners would say.
Stuff like that doesn't go unnoticed.
Thanks, Jay. Firstly, during this time he was called up for Sweden at the under-19 Euros, where he was named in the team of the tournament and finished as joint top scorer with 3 goals. Let's not get carried away, although that was 75% of Sweden's goals in the tournament. But nonetheless, a Premier League team soon came along to brighten up his career. Yeah, Brighton, that's who it was Brighton. At the start of 2018, Viktor made a significant step by moving to Brighton under manager Chris Hughton. But it wasn't long until he was knocking the manager's door saying, "Hughton, we have a problem." Sorry, couldn't resist, as he only had brief moments in the first team, as he went into the academy setup and struggled to make any impact. As the ex-Ghana manager said, "You ain't gonna play here." Okay, I'll stop now. He continued his excellent goal-scoring form for Brighton's under-21s, but his reward for that was to be sent out on several loans. His most successful loan was perhaps at St. Pauli. He spent a season there, played a key role in helping them avoid the drop, and the club's assistant Andre Trulson has since commented on how he stayed after training, improving his shooting. At St. Pauli he was often used on the wing due to competition up front, but he didn't moan about it, and according to Trulson this helped him with his abilities. At the end of the loan, Viktor said Auf Wiedersehen to St. Pauli and moved on. First to Swansea, then to Coventry, where he started to prove himself as one of the best forwards in the Championship under manager Mark Robins, and made his loan permanent in 2021. By smashing in 21 goals, he took Coventry to the brink of Premier League promotion in 2023, only losing to Luton in the playoff final, and his big break was just around the corner. Well, not really around the corner, it was more like 2,000 kilometres away, but you know what I mean, as he earned a move to Sporting. Eyebrows are certainly raised as Sporting smashed their transfer record for him, with some questioning why they paid €24 million for a striker playing in the second tier, but Viktor silenced all the haters by smashing in 43 goals in all comps in his first season there, and made 14 assists to boot, for a grand total of 57 goal contributions in 50 games, and led the club to their second league title under Ruben Amorim. And to top it all off, it later came out that he'd be carrying a knee injury all season. Some say he spurred on his teammates to have a great season as well, such as Pedro Gonçalves, Francisco Trincao and Morten Hjulmand. Yeah, the guy who scored against England in the Euros. Thanks, Victor. And he's acted again in the 24-25 season, scoring 11 goals in 5 games at the end of October, including a hat-trick against Man City, then followed that up 2 weeks later with 4 goals against Azerbaijan in the Nations League. So what makes him so good? He's tall at 6'2", fast, good one-on-one, two-footed, can score all types and just knocks defenders around like a school bully. Above all, he's difficult to defend. Even when he makes one of his runs into the channels, he opens up space for others in the middle. He's outperformed his XG for the past few years, for any stats nerds, which only shows he's an elite finisher. Nothing else to say, he's rather good. But Broma Poikana certainly deserve a mention in all of this. You see, for a club which constantly yo-yos between the divisions, only plays in the top flight for the first time in 2007, has average attendances of around 2,000, one of the lowest in the top flight, and only barely survived relegation last season in the relegation playoff after finishing third from bottom in the league, the club is hardly a big boy of Swedish football, but are responsible for churning out some talented players with their unique academy process. The club are responsible for success stories like Lucas Bergvall, who became the most expensive player in Allsvenskan history when he left for Tottenham for €10 million, and Dejan Kulusevski, and to a lesser extent Bojan Djordjic and John Guidetti, if you remember those. But the club was essentially the first in Sweden to scout players and pick the best players from every age group back in the 90s, and the club are now apparently the largest in the whole of Europe in terms of active youth teams. Quite the achievement. That's because the club relies on producing young'uns to survive, so there's a strong emphasis on getting the best young talents playing in the first team as soon as possible. Less fans going to the games means less dosh to buy players, so they need to sell players to make money, and that's effectively the DNA of the club. The academy and first team staff even share the same offices. So how do they produce their talent? This guy is the ex-sporting director, and he explains that there are 4 blocks at the club how they train their young ones: the tactical, technical, mental and physical blocks. For the physical block, they even work a lot with gymnastics, so the club are dead serious about their blocks. All are important, but the club places more emphasis on the first 2, especially at the beginning of a player's development, working on both blocks from about 8 years old, then introduce the other 2 as the players get a little older. The club also tries to expose its players to different playing environments from a young age, which means they're constantly challenged and test against some of the best players in the world in their age group. The club competes in a lot of tournaments across Europe, and this also helps them get noticed and selected for the Sweden youth teams. And maybe Gyokeres has changed the fortunes of this bum club. With him, Kulusevski and Bergvall spreading the good word of the academy, more scouts are going to Broma Poikana matches. More clubs in Sweden are copying, and some have even stolen some of the coaches. Instead of being bothered by it, Broma Poikana welcome the competition. The club has always had to innovate to survive, and if others follow, it would only benefit Swedish football even more. That's their view anyway. So we shouldn't be surprised if we see his mass celebration a few more times, which apparently is a reference to Bane, who said nobody cared until I put on the mask. But now people are caring about Viktor Gyokeres. And that's it, thanks for watching. Watch these because I think they're awesome. You're awesome for watching, and see you later.